Good evening. Welcome to Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting of November 23rd, 2020. Welcome to those that are participating or here from the public in person, and also to those who are joining us online. And we apologize for the late start this evening. We had a public hearing that started at 6:30 that went over time, and we are now just starting our public meeting scheduled originally for 7 p.m. Quick reminder, all participants in person here this evening must have a mask on, and we're going to adhere to that rule to the best that we possibly can. And also there's hand sanitizer. If anybody feels the need to sanitize their hands throughout the meeting, feel free to come on up. They're scattered throughout the area. We begin our meeting with a prayer and pledge of allegiance. Let's pray. Excuse me, before that, proof of publication of this meeting is available. We pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of this township. Create in us the earnest desire to serve faithfully and permit us to experience the joys of noble service completed for our residents. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and from those who serve. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions. We ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township, and we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name we pray. In your name, amen. Now, recording secretary this evening, please make note that Commissioner Holtzman and Commissioner Shin are both absent with excuse. Commissioners Kutz and Commissioner Black, this evening we have our minutes that we would like to seek to approve from the November 9th, 2020 regular meeting. If there are no comments or questions, I'd be seeking a motion to approve the minutes from November 9th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from November 9th, 2020. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. At this point on our agenda, it is time for audience participation on any item on our agenda. Is there anybody here with us this evening that would like to participate on any item on our agenda? Yes, sir. Number? 9B? Okay. When that item comes up, we will have you come up to the podium and you can participate.
Thank you very much.
You betcha.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may remind commissioners to make sure their microphones are turned on and they're sitting in proximity to it for the live stream audio.
Okay. We're asked to keep our microphones on and have them in good proximity to our mouths so that the public that are watching the live stream can hear us clearly. Number 5 on our agenda is our consent agenda. Any commissioner, staff member, or anyone else in attendance who would like to have an item on the consent agenda removed for further discussion can request so now. Is there a request for the removal of any item on the consent agenda?
President, I move to approve the items on the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve both items on the consent agenda this evening. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried 3-0. Under your president, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the check register of November 20th, 2020 in the amount of $263,789.66.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. On the question, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Next on the, I have looked for a motion to approve post-issuance compliance procedures following the issuance of general obligation notes to refund certain indebtedness of the township.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Finally, what I have this evening is for discussion of possible action, Resolution 2020 R-38, honoring Gordon E. Wilson for his years of service to the Lower Allen Sewer Authority and Lower Allen Stormwater Authority.
Motion to approve with appreciation. Second.
I have a motion with appreciation and a second to approve. Having said that, it's with regret that we did receive Mr. Gordon's resignation after all the years of service, and I do look forward to having some good conversations with him before he leaves, and we do thank him for his service. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. At this point on the agenda, if there's any information or any business pertinent to the township you would like to discuss, discussions will be limited to 15 minutes per person. Seeing nobody interested in doing that this evening, we'll move on to our township engineer.
Good evening. The first item I have is subdivision land development docket 2020-12. This is a subdivision plan. It involves 1604 Main Street and 1608 McCormick Drive. When it was first submitted, it was proposed that the two adjacent lots become lot lines be reconfigured and then a third lot be created. There were some issues with that regarding the zoning and the density. The applicant then revised their plan. The two lots have a common owner. All they are proposing at this time is to adjust the lot line between the two. Would not create any new building lots or any lots, just a reconfiguration of the line separating the two, and in doing so, they met all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. So there are 3 waivers requested. As you see, there's no construction proposed with this, no building construction at all, or development. So they are requesting waivers from the requirements for curb, sidewalk, and fill-in paving. And just to orient you, if you can see here, so the corner of Main Street and McCormick Drive, that's this lot. That's the 1604 Main Street lot. The one next to it is 1608 McCormick Drive. So they're simply reconfiguring this lot line between the two to a different configuration to change the size of the two lots.
Dan, where's the new line going to be?
This line here, I believe, is shifting to the north a little bit, and then this line also moves a little bit. At this scale, you don't even see too much of a difference. This line will move up in this direction. That's the primary change. So this lot, it's currently the 1.59 acres, will become 2 acres. This line will still be less than an acre, but still there is no minimum lot size required in this zoning district.
Did I miss an agenda memo on this, or was that all you had?
No, there was not an agenda memo.
Okay.
You get a copy of the plan when it's submitted.
Got it. And is your recommendation that we approve these waivers?
Yes, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Yeah, didn't we make some line adjustments in this area maybe a couple of years ago?
I seem to recall there may have been a plan proposed in this lot. I'm not sure if it ever went through to completion. I don't believe there's been any change here in a number of years. But there may have been a proposal at the time, but I don't think it went all the way through to recording.
But what we're doing is making one lot larger.
correct?
Correct.
Is there a reason for this?
Well, it's up to the owners. This lot would become 2 acres. It's possible it could be subdivided at some point in the future. The density is 1 unit per acre. So in order to make that 2 lots, it would have to be a 2-acre lot.
Dan, how would that be subdivided in the future?
I don't know, that would be up to someone that would draft a subdivision plan, how they would do it.
Can you just zoom out 1 second, just one little bit? Is there an alleyway at the back of the property? I guess
No.
here. This just goes right into the next property. I know there's a little alleyway somewhere in this.
There's Brenda Avenue that runs behind the houses here, next to the fire company property.
Right.
Yeah. This is the fire company property here. But behind 1608, this property from Main Street comes down here, so it intervenes between the 2. So back here is where the alley ends.
So, is there any further questions from commissioners?
Dan, just to clarify, there are no curbs and sidewalks along that portion of McCormick Drive currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. No, Mr. President, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion to approve the waiver of the requirements contained in section 192-57.C9. Provide sidewalks along all street frontage for such time as the installation of same has been deemed necessary by the township for the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. These improvements shall be made at the owner's expense. Covenants flown with the land shall bind the owners, their successors, theirs, and sign. That's the motion I'd be.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve a waiver of the requirement contained in section 192-57-B2H2 and 192-57.C8 to provide curbs on all street frontage until such time as the installation of same has been deemed necessary by the township for the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. These improvements shall be made at the owner's expense. This covenant running with the land which shall bind the owners, their successors, theirs, and the sign. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the question. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
President, I move to approve a waiver of the requirements contained in sections 192-57B2H2, 192-57C13 to provide fill-in paving until such time as the installation of same has been deemed necessary by the township for the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. These improvements shall be made at the owner's expense as a covenant running with the land which shall be made by the owners, their successors, heirs, and assigned. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the question. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. And I'll just further point out that the waivers are not contrary to the public interest, and they maintain the purpose and intent of the subdivision and land development ordinance. And then finally, folks, I'd be looking in follow-up for a motion to approve SLD docket number 2020-12, subdivision plan 41604 Main Street and 1608 McCormick Drive.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the question. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. And that's your next item, Dan.
Okay, item B, this is relative to the Arcona phase 8.1 plan, docket 220-05. When this was approved a few weeks ago, one of the issues had to do with a requirement for the distance walking distance between homes and the core neighborhood. And the intervening property between those two is not yet developed. It's part of the core neighborhood, part of the overall master plan. And one of the contingencies on their plan approval was that they record a declaration of restrictive covenant on that property, indicating that it could only be developed in accordance with the overall master plan as part of the core neighborhood. So in your packet was a copy of the declaration of restrictive covenant. The township isn't actually a party to it, but the owner of that property and Charter Homes, they are the two properties that make this declaration, and it gets filed with the county recorder of deeds on that property, so that it is a restriction on how that property can be developed.
This was at one of our prior meetings, the contingency, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2 meetings ago when it was approved. One of the contingencies was that they draft and record this declaration, a declaration approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Did the solicitor have a chance to review this?
Yes. And he was satisfied
okay
as much as we could be, yes.
Okay.
Mr. President, so Dan, you're looking for a motion to approve, is that correct?
Yes, it would just be to indicate the board's approval of that declaration of restrictive covenant.
Mr. President, I move to indicate the board's approval of the declaration of restrictive covenant related to zoning provisions applicable to Arcona Phase 8.1. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Did that satisfy the language we need, Madam Solicitor? Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. President.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
And item C is the next payment, invoice number 8 for the JVI group for the Gettysburg Road relocation project.
President, I'll make a motion to approve payment of invoice number 8 to JVI Group Inc. in the amount of $428,799.63 to Gettysburg Road relocation permit. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, thank you.
Next, community and economic development. The first item, I'm just going to kind of butt in here, John, is item relating to the hearing we just had, right?
Correct, and I heard you express that you would want to defer deliberation and not conduct that tonight because you only have 3 members.
I think that would be wise, plus I believe,
And Ed recused himself.
I believe Commissioner Black would be staying for any discussion.
Correct. I would point out, since public hearings adjourned, I know a couple of people asked me questions and asked you folks questions. I would encourage them to keep tabs on your agendas, and if they have a question or comment, they should make it at a public meeting so all commissioners and staff and the applicant would have a chance to know what their concern is. And I also noted, I was talking to Mr. Sechrist, he is on our mailing list to get a notice. So I think they were mailed about the 12th of the month, so why he didn't get it, I don't know. It could be that the county tax records have an old address for him or something, I don't know.
Mr. President, would a motion to table this discussion be appropriate at this time?
I believe so. To perhaps our next meeting when we have a forum for discussion.
In that case, Mr. President, I will move to table discussion and action on Ordinance 2020-08 and note for the record that we're postponing to such time as we have a quorum of commissioners who are able to vote on said ordinance. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We have something new here then, right? The brand new, the next one.
Yes, this is a new item. You have not had any information about it except for my memo of November 19. It was in your packet. We received another zoning ordinance amendment request. This one is not a map change. It is a text amendment. It was submitted by Attorney David Getz, who spoke earlier that he'd like to comment on this item. His client has equitable interest in the property at 4950 Wilson Lane. That's the old original rehab hospital, the one-story building that's bounded by Wilson Lane, Wilson Road, and Lancaster Boulevard. It's in the R3 district. Hospitals and those types of facilities are permitted in that zoning district. They're making, well, the client of Mr. Getz intends to establish an alcohol and drug rehab facility, which is permitted in the R3 district, but these facilities typically need both inpatient and outpatient care, and I'll let him get into that discussion with you. The text amendment is very simple. It's the bold part in your memo. It says that we would add a use to the list of permitted uses in the R3 district. As I said, the residential mental health and substance abuse facilities use is already permitted. So the change would be what's in bold there, that we would add NAICS number 621420, outpatient mental health and substance abuse centers, only in the same facility where a NAICS number 623220, residential mental health and substance abuse facilities use is also being operated. NAICS is North American Industry Classification System, which we use in our mixed-use, multifamily, and TND and commercial industrial districts to categorize uses. So we're to the point where you can hear from Mr. Getz, and either tonight or at a subsequent public meeting, you would typically authorize staff to start the public review process. That would be scheduling, well, authorizing us to draft the ordinance, which will be rather simple. It's that one sentence in there with a couple clauses added to it from boilerplate that I can do and have the solicitor review. So it's a very short and simple text change. The distribution to the county and township planning commissions, as was discussed in the preceding public hearing, that would occur. And you could, either tonight or at a later date, establish a public hearing date. I will note that the county planning agencies are required to have 30 days minimum to review. If you were to choose to authorize this to be sent out tonight, we could get it to them in time for them to review it at their December meetings, but they would not have had 30 days. So we couldn't really schedule a public hearing till January. Tom, is this coming year a reorganization year, or is that in even years?
That is not upcoming.
Okay, so then your meetings would be in January, would be the 11th and the 25th in January. So that's pretty much it. Then I'll yield to Mr. Getz to give you a little more information, and I'll be available for questions, as will he.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Getz before he starts, or do you want to just hear a presentation?
No, I think we should hear his presentation.
Okay.
Good evening,
Right,
Commissioners. As John said, my name is Dave Getz. I'm an attorney from Harrisburg who's representing the developer in this property. It is the old rehab hospital, Renova Center, Life Care. It's had numerous properties over the years. The intention is to build, as John said, an alcohol and drug rehab center for inpatient use, inpatient treatment. As we all know, many people are issued prescription medicines to which they can become addicted and need assistance in getting off of those. That would be one reason to have this facility. And as John said, the inpatient is a permitted use. What we're looking at doing is adding outpatient to that, really for a continuum of care. There may be people who come to us who only need outpatient treatment, and while they're in that, they really need the inpatient. Or there may be people that start as inpatients, and when they're finished with that, they're finished with the inpatient, but they're not done, and they need further support going forward. We believe that the opportunity to have both of these take place in the same building will allow the same staff who is trained inpatient and outpatient to care for people and be able to do counseling and therapy and help people stay away from their addictive behaviors. We think this is a good addition. We think that it makes sense to put it where it's already permitted use, as it is here, as opposed to a freestanding outpatient clinic. That's not what this is requesting. This is only requesting an outpatient treatment options where there is an existing inpatient treatment facility. This is if you're familiar with the building, it's a large building. There's a huge parking lot. There's plenty of room, and it's the kind of use that has been done at this facility for, I hate to say decades, because I remember this building going back a lot of years. But it is the kind of facility and the kind of space and the kind of location that's easy to get to for township residents and others who may need these facilities. So I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. I attached with the letter just a couple pages of the agreement of sale showing that we do have an equitable interest. I redacted the price and all the other terms, just left the signature pages. But we would ask that you start the wheels in motion and set a hearing sometime in January so that we can go through the county and the Township Planning Commission and get their input on this as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So perhaps my question can be answered by staff, perhaps by you, sir. The language to adjust the permitted uses, that would be in our the new permitted uses specifically, that it would have to be a facility that already has the inpatient.
That is this working?
Yeah, yeah, and just so you know, the context of my question is always my fear is that we do something and then down the road it gets interpreted that you don't have to do what we're actually thinking we're doing here, and that is that you would have to have a facility that already has the inpatient.
Well, maybe not already has, but does
but
at
also,
the same
but
time.
also, right, also has that, where we wouldn't just have a freestanding or a new business that just has outpatient.
That was the specific intent of the text amendment that we drafted, and
Right.
I did discuss it with Mr. Eby before we submitted it, and then he looked at it and made a couple suggestions to make it even more precise.
Yes.
That the intention of this ordinance is inpatient and outpatient in the same facility, in the same building,
Okay.
as opposed to something that would just strictly be outpatient.
Okay.
To clarify, this would, again, as Mr. Getz said, this is a very narrow and specific change to the list of permitted uses where it would only allow the outpatient in the building where inpatient is established. It would be in effect anywhere in the R3 district, but we do have other districts, commercial type districts, where an outpatient clinic could be established by right. This is peculiar to R3.
Okay. That's the only question I had, to make sure that that was crystal clear, that that was our intent.
That's absolutely our intent.
Okay.
Mr. Getz, the applicant here is Broad Rock Group LLC.
Yes, sir.
Do they operate other facilities such as this?
My understanding is they have one that they're doing in the Midwest. I forget exactly where it is, but somewhere in the Midwest they have one. They're kind of, it's a new growth opportunity for this company.
How many residents and outpatients would they have here?
It would be licensed inpatient beds. I don't know if we've made a use application yet. Have you seen an application yet?
No, only the application to make the text amendment. I have had inquiries from parties interested in the building, and there is a limit to the number of beds that can be available based on the number of rooms that exist in the building and the number of parking spaces, but I don't know that number. It would be most likely not more than the number of patients that were there when it was a rehabilitation for physical type components.
Dave, can you describe their security program?
I honestly, I can't. We'll certainly have that information when we get to the planning commission meeting now.
Okay. Do you know if this is a voluntary sign in and out facility? With as outpatient, I would imagine it is.
Outpatient is certainly voluntary. My understanding of inpatient drug and alcohol drug treatment centers is that they are voluntary, that someone can walk out of them, unless they're court adjudicated.
But if they're declared an inpatient, must they stay there? Must they be sequestered there?
My understanding, and this is just in general, is that anybody who's in a treatment facility, drug and alcohol treatment facility, may leave and then may sign themselves out and depart.
Mr. Manager, do you know if our police are aware of this? Will you see that they have some input for us, Dave? That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. So at this point this evening, we'd be advancing. Any action we would do tonight would be just to advance to get to more of a public forum, so we can get the public review process going. So if we're willing to take some action this evening, we'll be looking to authorize that to initiate the public review process.
Mr. President, I will move to authorize preparation of a text amendment ordinance, and with that, to authorize distribution of the ordinance to Lower Allen Township and Cumberland County planning agencies.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I just have one more comment, and just to ditto what Commissioner Black mentioned about the public safety perspective. Just to clarify, you're going to get some information, maybe what our expectations are, or whatever input we can provide to them as we move through this process.
That's fine with us, sir. We'll be happy to provide any information we can to the public safety people.
Super.
That's certainly a very valid concern.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Guest.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. Mr. President,
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes. On this particular issue?
Okay.
Okay. We can certainly do that. Ms. Secretary, call for a roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Madam Solicitor, do you need a roll call vote on the establishing public hearing date motion as well, which is forthcoming? No, 9B. No, we're still on 9B. I was just, I took the authorizing the preparation and the distribution of the ordinance text separate and from establishing a public hearing date as the last action. And John, would you still like us to pick a hearing date tonight?
You could, but I think is your question, could there have been a roll call on, so the motion was two parts. Right? Okay.
Yeah. So I took
a
the
roll
first
call
two.
on the first two bullet
Right.
points. Now you're saying the third bullet point, should that also be a roll call?
Yeah, so one, do you want us to establish a hearing date? Two, if we do you want a roll call for that? Okay, that's fine. Mr. Getz.
Yes, sir.
And apologies if you'd like to step in between. So John, we're looking at the January 11th or 25th, right?
Correct. If we have your authorization now to prepare and distribute the ordinance for planning agency review, 30 days, let's say we get it to them, today's the 23rd, let's say we get it to them at the end of this week.
Well, it'll be next week, 'cause unless you're working Friday.
Well, so yeah, sure. So let's say they get it by early December, the planning agency, that will be in time for them to consider it at the December regular meeting. But the hearing is not fair for the 30 days.
Sorry, look
Or
at
the
that.
11th of January, could work.
But the 25th is safer. What are you saying?
The 25th, I don't think that's the planning agency. Planning agency is the 21st and 23rd, so that's
I would be good with that.
All right. In that case, Mr. President, is that okay?
Yes, please
Okay.
do.
All right. I will move to establish a public hearing date for this docket ZOA 2020-03. John, that's a correct docket, correct? 2020-03. Okay. All right. All right. Then I'll. No, I'm seeing the 25th.
Don't do 2020 again, please.
All right. I will move then to establish a public hearing date at this docket ZOA 2020-03 to be held on at 60 to 30 minutes. What do you think?
I would say an hour on
Okay,
this
let's
one.
make it 6 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
6
I'm
o'clock.
sorry, is this in
So
January?
5 o'clock.
It's
5 o'clock.
All right.
We're meeting 6 o'clock.
correct. Yeah.
All right, Julie, here we go again. Mr. President, I move to establish a public hearing date for docket ZOA 2020-03 of January 25th, 2021 at 5 o'clock p.m. here in Gorgas Hall. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We okay with just that vote? Thank you.
Thank you for your time very much, and
Thank
happy
you.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep. See you in January. Next, discussion on a land partnership grant award.
Well, I'll make this brief. Last week we were awarded $17,000 from Cumberland County's Land Partnership Program. That $17,000 will go to install 2 different crosswalks. We had also received from PATS a $68,000 for those crosswalks, so that'll be a match. So that means we'll have 100% of the project paid for.
Super.
And then another update this morning, we also were notified from DEP that we received $128,000 from a 902 recycling grant, which would be used to pay for reimbursement of a leaf picker and a wood chipper.
That's great news, and
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you so much for all that work on the grants.
Sure. Let me throw in, because I don't know if the impact of that has hit. One of the pieces of equipment was purchased in 2019. So when we receive that money in 2021, there's no offsetting expenditure. So as you remember the discussion last week when Mr. Grove said, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. You get more revenue, less expenditure. We don't know where it's going to end up. This helps.
I got
This is additional revenue that we did not have in the budget.
Great. Well, all the more reason thanks for sticking with it. Comes in after the fact. We love that. Great news. All right, Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you. If you remember, just wasn't too long ago, we held a public hearing and you adopted or enacted an ordinance on the Comcast cable franchise agreement. This is the Verizon cable franchise agreement. This franchise agreement actually expired a year ago. Verizon's been very difficult to negotiate with. We were assured by our counsel, Dan Cohen, that it was not a serious matter that we continued without a cable franchise agreement. They just continue operating under the the expired one, but it took them a while to get the new one negotiated. So it is now ready. We did hold a hearing on this franchise renewal in May 28th of 2019, so we do not have to have another public hearing. And because you have not seen this ordinance yet, I did not have it on the agenda for enactment, just for discussion, and the plan would be to have it on the December, whatever the 13th or whatever the meeting date is in December, for enactment. Right. So if is there any discussion or questions about it? It's just, again, it's typical. It's similar to the Comcast agreement. The executive summary was in there. It's all the same things. We have to set the Schedule A with the buildings that get free service, and pretty much because of the level playing field clauses, both agreements are almost identical.
Great, thank you. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Okay, we'll do commissioner reports, and then looks like we're going to go into executive session after that. I guess my question is, are we going to recess and come back? Will we need to take action?
You'll need to recess. We'll need action on the first item.
Okay.
We will not need action on the second item.
Okay, so after commissioner reports, we'll be recessing to executive session. And we'll start this evening with Julie. Thank you.
If I could remind staff to use the handheld microphone if you want to speak, please, because otherwise I'm not going to pick you up on the live stream.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I did also want to let you know that we've been working with Jawwood for our GIS services, and one of the programs that we've been working on is creating a program to track where our food collection is currently taking place. And that went live today. So if you look on our website, where we also have a list of street names that are colored, you'll also see now a map. And as Public Works finishes these streets, they're picking the streets to a street in color. So it's not quite live action. They were a little sensitive to having the sticker trash like that. So we came up with a different way to do it. So after the complete street, so hopefully it's close to real time and we're shooting that everything.
Super. Thank you. Director?
Not on. Can you ever turn it off?
There you go. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. The board will recall that during the ad hoc, we had one of the recommendations was to take a look at station locations. The manager signed an agreement with a consultant to start that process. As you recall, we have some money in this year's budget, and there's an allocation in the proposed next year's budget. So between those two budgets, we'll be kicking that off here shortly. That I don't anticipate that will be done until sometime in the spring, and the board, members of the board, have welcomed and should be a part of that discussion as we move forward. So I think it's a great thing. It's one of the things that we really need to take a look at and seriously have a lot of discussion on. So that's at least not formally kicked off, but it's going to be taken off here shortly during the month of December, I would imagine. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Here, you can just use the desktop.
Yeah.
There you go. That was easy.
Hey, it was nice to have you here with us tonight, and thanks for keeping us in line. Director Flint?
I have nothing. Thanks.
Director Grove? Okay. Tom?
Nothing further from me.
Commissioner Kutz?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out that this Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and in light of Cumberland County's recent surge in COVID-19 cases, I would encourage anyone who is still willing and able to support their small businesses to do so as safely as possible, whether it's curbside pickup, delivery, online orders, using your mask wherever you are. There are so many small businesses that desperately need our help. We can't allow our businesses in the township to go under, and it takes all of our support in these times in particular to ensure that the health and vibrancy of our local economy is ensured. So, Mr. President, I'll be looking for ways this week that I can support each one of our local businesses in the safest way possible as we get through this time together, and I look forward to a time in the not too distant future when we can return to shopping there and patronizing them in person frequently. And with that, I yield back. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice President Black?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for a good meeting, everybody. I thought we got through our stuff, had some good debates on certain things. I'm just going to bring this up for some discussion. I was hoping that maybe both Commissioner Holtzman and Commissioner Shin would also be here in person with us on this topic, but maybe it's a coincidence that they're not. With the recent order with having to wear masks inside now and some of the other changes, I can only guess maybe what will be coming down the pike. Is it something that might benefit us at this point to start considering maybe Zoom meetings between now and, let's say, maybe the end of the year? I just want to throw that out there, considering that we may be short-handed or with having quorums maybe perhaps between now and the end of the year. If folks aren't able to make it in, they've got cold or something, and they're going to play it extra safe, that would allow, I believe, the ability for those folks who couldn't be here to participate as well, and we'd be able to keep our quorum. Just a thought, and I was hoping maybe we could have some discussion on it if anyone's interested in partaking in discussion.
Is that the reason that the two commissioners are not here tonight?
Not to my knowledge. No, my thought was with the further restrictions. I mean, that the public, I don't know how they're going to feel about wanting to come in person. I know that there's a lot of interest of even watching the live streams now. So our viewership there, I think it is a demand. My thought was that with the winter coming in and the likelihood that there'd just be more colds and things of that nature, perhaps, there'd be people less inclined to participate in person. Maybe we can just make it easier for everybody to participate more frequently. But like I said, I'm just bringing it up as a thought, and I'm not indifferent, but I'm okay to continue doing the in-person meetings. But I would certainly entertain if there was a need or a demand or a desire that we go back to online, at least for a period of time. I would be okay with that.
Mr. President, I think we could certainly discuss with staff and see if staff has any interest or recommendation after the meeting and make a determination from there.
The other thought I had was maybe we do what it takes to ensure that a public can view from on externally too, make sure they watch the live stream, so they don't feel like they have to come to participate or know what's going on in the township. And then also, is it possible, under the circumstances that we're faced with now with COVID and under the emergency declaration and some of the leeway, I guess, we've been given as municipalities do our business. Is it possible that if a commissioner or two couldn't be here, or more, that we could have them participate from an external location, with a quorum, to help make the quorum. Again, my thoughts to make sure that we can conduct our business at the town, in the township, one way or the other. So, and so that would be my other thought on that, if we can look into that. We've had the question in the past, and I think that the answer was, at least on the spot, when somebody was out of town, or could they call in. I think they can comment what Steve said, but that it wouldn't constitute a quorum. And so to get motions and seconds and getting things passed might be more difficult, hence getting the business done that we have to get done. And I would imagine plans and submissions aren't going to stop by the people that are building in the township and people requesting our service.
Participating by phone is a lot easier than participating via Zoom. Let's say if we're using that platform, it's difficult to do with a group on one side and a single person on the other side, mainly because camera angles. You can't pick everybody up. I could set, for example, we could set a laptop up here. I could have it pointed that way, and let's say, for example, Commissioner Holtzman was participating via Zoom. She could see you and hear you and things like that. You could see her and hear her, but nobody else is going to see her, and she's not going to see anybody else, unless I just sit here and move the laptop around. So, Zoom in that application is difficult to use. What I want to do is I want to talk with our IT providers to see if there's a way we can use this camera here to participate in Zoom.
Oh, okay, good.
It's possible we can do that, but you can't do both. You couldn't do it for, if you did it for YouTube, or if you did the Zoom meeting, we can push that to YouTube, so people could view it that way, but we wouldn't be able to run a concurrent live stream. So it would still be available for people to watch. They would just watch it in the Zoom format rather than in this meeting.
Right, but they get a link like before, and they can just log into the link, right?
Okay.
I got it.
That's what we did earlier in the year.
Okay. So I'm
also point out, and I don't know I know the governor had a press conference today. I didn't hear this part, but when he extended the emergency order at the end of August, I think it was, he extended for 90 days. So it expires next week. It expires on the 30th at the end of this week. And it's the emergency order that allows us to do virtual meetings. So if he doesn't renew that emergency order, did he do that today? Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see the whole thing either. But if he does not extend the emergency order, it's a moot point in the virtual meeting.
Okay.
Because then he would then violate something. Is that right?
Okay. All right. Well, that's the question I had, and I just wanted to bring it up. And I agree with Commissioner Kutz that we can just continue the discussion offline and try to come to some resolutions on a case-by-case basis, or a meeting-to-meeting at this point. So at this point, our meetings are going to be scheduled in person unless we hear otherwise. Okay. Other than that, we're just going to recess now to executive session. And we'll be back.